Assalamu alaikum, and today it's lecture number 26 with the course Natural Resource Planning and Management, and we are coming to the end of the course. I hope you people have understood the seriousness of the discipline and how as policymaker you are going to apply it in your practical lives. Before we go into detail, let's go into our normal routine by giving you the recap of lecture number 25, what we covered last time. Well, we were talking about forests, and I started off with the definition of forests, what are the importance of forests, what are its types. Then we moved on to the concept of deforestation, that why deforestation is happening, what can we what kind of steps can be taken in terms of reducing the deforestation, what has been the historical perspective, and this one was with reference to Pakistan as to how the area of forestry act and policy making process have evolved in Pakistan. So we were following the British Colonial Act, and then for the first time we started off with Forest Policy Resolution in 1955. Later on in 1962 there was a policy directive on forestry, watershed management, range management and soil conservation. Then 1975 comes on. Over here there's a decision of the Council of Common Interest. 1980s, then we have relevant provision of national agricultural policy, and remember that there was a time where we were dealing forest under the agricultural policy, and this is the Zia regime. Now in 1988 we had this recommendations for the National Commission on Agriculture. Then in 1992 there was a forestry sector master plan. Then in 2001, in some of the books you will see that it's 2001, and in some of the journal papers I was looking that it's 2002, what they call as the forest policy. And recently, like in 2014, a new policy has been formulated, and it is with the government for approval. So far we haven't got the approval, but yes, the policy has been made. So therefore we don't know what is in the upcoming policy, but we will be covering till 2002 policy, the National Forest Policy. So that was all what we have covered in lecture number 25, and our main focus was what actually the policies were. We haven't analyzed them, and we were actually looking at how the government shift has been focusing and how much the one actor was stronger, one actor was weak, what has been the state of forests. And the main crux throughout the policies that we see is government has been a very strong actor, and it has been a very top-down approach throughout these policies. But on the other side, when we are talking about the new management systems over here, I think we spent like 2-3 days on community-based natural resource management. If we take that one, then this forest policy or this forest management seems a little obsolete, because the new mechanisms are more involving participation. They are more involved with community, but in these policies we don't see communities at all. Second point that I wanted to make was that the gender is also very much absent. We haven't used the word women, and when we were talking about ecofeminism and our gender, that how they are related to natural resource management, we established with facts that yes, women are more closer to nature. So in the forest policy also there is no role of gender. Later on, there are new mechanisms, and that my plan is to cover in the next lecture, because it is very important. And if you know the concept, yes, it gives you more opportunities for research, for job opportunities, and that is RED and RED Plus. That is a new concept. Not much new, but it is an evolving concept with reference to Pakistan, because we haven't done much on it. And there was one project that was happening, और वो भी कुछ controversy के अंदर आ गया. So therefore, RED is one of my plans कि जी इसके अंदर मैं RED cover करूँगा, given the time, और आप कितना उसको learn करते हैं, that is the thing. If you see that in this course, like community-based natural resource management, then payment for ecosystem services, new concept, uske baad the RED, I have tried to made it in such a way so that once you these are things that are happening at the moment. These are not really कि जी books के आपके कुछ formal text book है जिसके अंदर ये वाले आपको chapters मिलेंगे. But what I have done is I have tried कि the way the course moves on, it should be practical in nature. The concepts that we are told to you, they are happening at the moment, and you can actually read about them in the newspaper. You can watch them over the television. So therefore, if you remember in the start, I said it would be more of a practical course. Now, let's see what are the key lessons that we actually learn from Pakistan's experience. Now, one of the things that we can safely say that Pakistan's experience highlights the fact कि जितने भी हमने ये international models लगाए, they are meaningless. ठीक है ना? जो ये आप top down approach, authoritarian approaches, ये जो हम लगा रहे थे for the natural resource management, for the forest management, it has been fruitless unless the implementation was in line with the policies. That is so far till 2014 we know that in Pakistan the policies hasn't worked the way it should have been. क्योंकि वहाँ पे जो gap identify करते हैं different researchers whose area of expertise is forestry, they say that it's more of implementation gap. It's more of governance gap. So the implementation aspect is more difficult to satisfy. Policy banana, yes, it is a difficult process, but well, it can be made. ठीक है ना? आपने कुछ statements ही देनी है. But the more difficult part comes कि when we start talking about कि either policy की implementation हो भी रही है या नहीं हो रही. And what we have seen in terms of Pakistan, that the policies were there, and even if they are bad or good, they weren't even implemented. ठीक है ना? So incidentally, implementation modalities are aspects of such reforms to which literature pays on secondary importance. और हम उसकी तरफ इतनी importance नहीं करते. हम कहते हैं policy होनी चाहिए, चाहे implement हो या ना हो. It is the same thing कि हमारे पास environmental laws हैं, either you are following them or not. But we can safely say we have environmental laws. Pakistan is signatory of so many international conventions. Either we actually mean them in spirit or not, doesn't matter. So that becomes secondary when it comes to the true results, true outcomes. So therefore, that has been one of the experience. Well, it may be easy to term Pakistan's experience as a classic case of implementation failure. हमारे यहाँ पे implementation failure का एक classic case है, stemming from क्यों हो रहा है, because of lack of political will. This highlights only one aspect of the relationship कि जी हमारे पास political will नहीं है, that's why ये implementation failure है. But apart from political will, there is a government's inability to institute change have a cyclical relation. कि एक तो political will है, दूसरी साइड पे आपकी government की ability भी है to bring about this change. While lack of political will slow down the process, failure to bring about change despite efforts dampens political actors' commitment to sustain efforts and to achieve the ultimate objectives. तो अगर political will भी नहीं है और साथ government की inability भी हो जाए, तो that is a wonderful combination for any policy failure. ठीक है? Now in order to break this cycle, ये जो हम cycle में आ रहे हैं कि जी एक side पे आपकी political विल भी नहीं है, दूसरी साइड पे आपकी गवर्नमेंट की कैपेसिटी भी नहीं है, तो हाउ टू डू दैट? वी हैव टू मेक इम्प्लीमेंटेशन इफेक्टिव बाय द विल एक्टर। क्या आपके पास जहाँ पे पॉलिटिकल विल होनी चाहिए, ठीक है, एंड अलाउइंग कॉन्क्रीट एक्शंस, और हमारे वहाँ पे कॉन्क्रीट एक्शंस होने चाहिए सो दैट वी कैन एक्चुअली मेक थिंग्स हैपन। नाउ अगर हम इम्प्लीमेंटेशन फेलियर को गवर्नेंस के लेंस से देखें, वी स्टडीड गवर्नेंस एट क्वाइट अ स्ट्रेच इन आवर प्रीवियस लेक्चर्स, सो उसके अंदर हम देखते हैं कि गवर्नेंस का भी आपका बहुत वीक गवर्नेंस है एंड देयर आर लैक ऑफ इनिशिएटिव्स इनटू इट, ठीक है। And empirical evidence from the world suggests that implementation plans that are not grounded with the realities of the governance, ठीक है, context will face stiff resistance। यानी अगर आप इन पॉलिसीज को, इन प्लान्स को गवर्नेंस के दायरे में भी नहीं आके बनाते तो इनके लिए रेजिस्टेंस आएगी, यानी पीपल आर नॉट गोइंग टू एक्सेप्ट इट and inevitably fail unless altered to confirm prevailing framework, the latter being self-defeating if the objective is systematic overhaul। तो आपकी implementation failure के chances ज़्यादा हैं, so they have to be good governance also। Analyzing ये जो है, अगर हम इसको देखें, 1 minute, let me just get the pointers done, yeah। Analyzing the forest policies of Pakistan, it is found that most of the policy initiative until recently, हम 2001 से onward अगर बात करें, were aimed at forest conservation। Our main objective has been forest conservation and ignored the livelihood provisions for local communities। यानी आपने सिर्फ conserve करना है and the communities who were living around there, you were not concerned about their livelihoods। That was what we have seen in all the policies। अगर आपने नहीं पढ़ा तो again you can recap to lecture the previous lecture and you would see कि जितनी मैंने आपको policies की highlight बताई थी उन सारों के अंदर this was basically given that livelihoods के बारे में हमने कोई वहाँ पे policy नहीं रखी। Even the conservation aspect of those policies was never implemented effectively। और जो हमने भी शुरू में बात की कि there has been an implementation failure। People's participation in plantation and management of forest was not given attention। यहाँ पे आ गया, yes, was not given sufficient attention, and social cultural aspects of forest management were ignored। ठीक है, this is also we have seen कि people participation तो थी नहीं since the start and it has not been given attention and social cultural aspects of forest management were ignored। Social cultural aspects जब मैं कहता हूँ it's more of कि आपके जो customary laws होते हैं, customary laws, एक तो आपके statutory laws चल रहे होते हैं और एक customary laws होते हैं, those are based on your social and your cultural outputs, inputs rather, and they are quite strong। और अगर आप देखें northern areas में KPK के अंदर these customary laws have played quite a role in terms of conservation of these forests। At some point they are in conflicting with the statutory laws and on the other part they are not we would say coordinated but they are synchronized with the statutory laws। इसी वजह से जब हम कहते हैं कि जी statutory laws जब बनाते हैं तो always keep the customary laws in mind ताकि उन दोनों के दरमियान कोई conflict ना आए, because if there is a conflict then आपके resource management होना मुश्किल है। Now let's come to 1975। वहाँ का analysis करते हैं कि till 1975 all previous forest policies, may it be 1894, 1955 and 1962 were top down, ऊपर से नीचे, ठीक है, autocratic थी। Let me just highlight them for you। It was top down, it was autocratic, it was aimed at saving public forests, ठीक है, and increasing the forest area by acquiring the land under control of forest department, enhancing public forest yield and creating more revenues from forest। यानी आप public forest के areas को बस increase करते क्योंकि land सारा government के control में था, ठीक है। That is happening till 1962। अब जो policy resolution है जो 1894 की है, now the policy resolution of 1894 depicted the sole objective of managing state-owned forests. We have already said that more than 80% of the forests are in control of the government. Okay? So we were advocating the state-owned forests for public benefit, which meant restriction and regulation of rights and privileges of the forest dependent population. क्या आपने for local वाले लोगों को ना involve किया, ना उनके livelihoods का ख्याल रखा, but our core objective was कि हमने उसकी क्या करनी है, conservation करनी है. अब ये जो top down approach है, उसको colonial approach भी ये कहते हैं, approach of governance which also reflected in the first national policies of 1955 और 1962 के अंदर भी आपको यही नजर आता है कि it was very much bureaucratic, it was very much autocratic, it was very much top down. And these policies recommended greater powers to the forest department. यानी government के हाथ में ज़्यादा उन्होंने power दी थी, forest department के पास ज़्यादा powers थी. जब 1962 आता है तो 1962 recommended not only enhancement penalties under the Forest Act, कि उसने penalties को भी increase कर दिया, ठीक है, but also demanded magisterial powers to the forest officers. Now in 1962 you can see the change is that they are not only asking for the enhancement of penalties, but they are also asking the magistracy power. यानी आपके पास law भी आपके पास आ जाए, so that you can arrest a person, you can do whatever the magistrate can do in the government, and this is what is being done in 1962. So still 55 में तो चलो था ही, लेकिन 62 में it is further becoming more stronger at part of the forest department. 1972 policy was the first policy which recognized people living in and around the area as stakeholders. हमने उनको कहा जी कि stakeholders हैं, और ये 1972 की policy में आपका आता है, 1975 की policy में, ठीक है, 1975 forest policy. So this policy, अगर आप इसको कहें, so it was more of a political in nature than public service oriented. So सिर्फ लोगों को खुश करने के लिए हमने कहा जी, well, people live around the forest, we have to take care of them, and we just considered them as something like it was more of a political thing. अगर आप theoretically देखें इस policy को, तो in theory the policy was the same, whereas practically the attitude of an average official of the forest department remained as same set by the previous policies. Yani it hasn't brought change. In black and white, as I said, कि जी policy बनाना कोई कारनामा नहीं है, but policy की implementation is the bigger step. So what they did was that yes, they have made people kind of gave little importance, but in the true sense, when we look at the implementation, how this 1975 policy looks like, it was also the same, क्योंकि जो forest officer का जो behavior था, it hasn't changed. It remained the same the way it was with reference to the previous policies. Now, होता क्या था कि there was less check and balances on the officials of forest department regarding their own illegal actions. यानी they were so strong. हम तो timber mafia की बात करते हैं ना, so we can call that these forest officers were so strong कि उनके अपने जो उनके ऊपर कोई checks and balances नहीं थे, very less checks and balances. So if the person who is actually in the law implementation position, and if he is not following the law, or if he is not being checked, then you can easily imagine that what will be the state of affair. 1975, so let's move on to 1980. The 1980 forest policy was developed under the umbrella of military government. As I said, it was the Zia regime. This policy also recognized importance on the involvement of local people. उन्होंने कहा जी local people बहुत important है, लेकिन किसके लिए? In tree plantation. But at the same time, it limited the rights of local people by bringing more land under the control of state and establishment of national parks. लेकिन अब उन्होंने क्या किया? उन्होंने जहाँ पे local लोगों को थोड़ी सी recognize किया उतनी importance, but they again expanding the same forest का जो span था उसको increase किया और ज़्यादा किसके control में लेके आया? Control of state and establishment of national parks. ठीक है. Now move on to This is happening in Zia regime. This is happening in 1980s. The policies in the military regime. Now let's talk about what happens in 1991. 1991 mein there is once again a democratic government, and the country presented a donor-driven policy. We call it as the donor-driven forest policy. Why? Its focus was on meeting environmental needs. Let me just highlight it for meeting the environmental needs of country in a sustainable manner. Quite similar to previous policies, it was also targeted to increase the forest production and area. ठीक है? This policy generated concepts like forestry extension and appointment of green man. This one. इस पॉलिसी में ये वाली आपकी आई, who was entrusted to educate. ये जो green man था ये क्या करता था? He was there to educate farmers to develop farm forestry and involvement of local people in the forest management. So this is happening in 1991. Diversity आपकी आ गई. फिर forest policy of 2001-2002. It provided the concepts such as active participation of stakeholders, sustainable forest management, sustainable livelihoods. Now we are talking about sustainability. ठीक है, 90s के बाद हम sustainability का concept लेके आए, forest farming लेके आए, green man आपका educate कर रहा है, और फिर 2002 के अंदर हम ये लेके आते हैं कि stakeholders, यानी बाकी actors को भी हमने क्या करना है, involve करना है in our decision making mechanisms. Then what happens but this policy continued negative aspects such as encouraging the police-like behavior of forest department. Government still was very strong, and अब तो नहीं, लेकिन earlier this the forest department or the people who were in the positions, in the key positions of forest department, it would be thought as if they were the DCOs of that particular district. ठीक है ना? मैं northern areas में especially जहाँ पे आपके forest के spread ज़्यादा हैं, तो ये forest वाले तो अपने पास सारी इन्होंने authorities रखी हुई थी और local लोगों को इन्होंने involve नहीं किया था. ठीक है? So it was just like a policing, as if they were the police, and they were, instead of doing the nature source management, they were doing some other kind of management. So therefore, the analysis also depicts that the past forest policies of 1955, 1962, 1975, 1980 were associated more or less with change of the governments. कि जैसे जैसे आपकी governments बदल रही थी, वैसे वैसे आपकी policy भी बदलती जा रही थी, and it was basically to meet the government's objectives. So the policy was more of a political gimmick. So therefore, जैसे जैसे government आपकी बदलती जा रही है, वैसे वैसे आपकी policy भी आती जा रही है. However, अब अगर हम further on आए, the 1991 policy and 2001 are claimed to be participatory. But the civil society organization blamed these कि भी ये अभी भी participatory नहीं है. उन्होंने क्या कहा कि these are donor-driven policies, ignoring the ground realities and needs of local people. कि भी donor की तरफ से pressure है, that's why you're doing it. Otherwise, still you are not letting the common man involved in the process, where we can have good policies or where we can have a community-based natural resource management system. So therefore, that is the feedback coming out from the civil society. In fact, ये जो policy initiatives हैं, they cannot achieve their objectives until the sustainable livelihood of stakeholders is not taken care of. That is one of the main issues. कि भी forests को आप increase करते जाएं, उनका output grow करते जाएं, लेकिन if you do not bring about, or if you do not have this component of stakeholders specifically livelihood, so then there's no use of policy. Policies are there. वही वाली बात जब हमने की थी, policies का जब आप बनाते हैं तो उनका social outcome क्या होता है, बहुत broad होता है, और उस broadness को लाने के लिए what we are doing is that we have to make people as the center. कि जी उन लोगों के लिए आप policy बना रहे हो, और अगर लोगों के livelihood है ही नहीं, then what is the benefit of that policy? If the criticism is coming that these are donor driven or the government officials are becoming strong in it, still there is going to be a huge problem. Now, एक है गीजर ने एक कहा कि in practice, I'm going to read it, in practice forest resources are made inaccessible, ठीक है, for the poor and marginalized societies, sections of the communities, whereas the influential along with members of timber mafia consumed these resources at their own sweet will. Policies, जो restrictions हैं, जो जिसे कहते हैं disadvantages हैं, वो हमने किनको देने हैं? Marginalized communities को या poor को देने हैं. But people who are rich, who are in position, who are the timber mafia, they enjoy all kinds of perks and privileges. They have an unlimited access to the forests. Now, in practice, yes, that is very much true. We need to see कि जी आप किसके लिए पॉलिसी बना रहे हैं और वो पॉलिसी कैसे इम्प्लीमेंट हो रही है. Now, why this dichotomy? This dichotomy created a sense of lack of ownership. जो ओनरशिप पहले कम्युनिटीज़, अगर आप कस्टमरी लॉज में देखें तो कम्युनिटीज़ वर मैनेजिंग दीज फॉरेस्ट्स, वो जो चीज़ है वो क्या हो जाता है? ख़त्म हो जाता है, वो इंसेंटिव आपका ख़त्म हो जाता है. द डायकोटमी क्रिएटेड अ सेंस ऑफ लैक ऑफ ओनरशिप among marginalized sections, not only adding to their miseries but also encouraged them to adapt illegal means to meet their needs from forest resources. And these policies, जो कि हम कह रहे थे कि they are top down, they are made by the government, the way we have formulated them, that it is not beneficial for the marginalized communities, it has forced them. Remember, it has forced them to get themselves involved into illegal things. ठीक है. Now the thing is कि अगर आप illegal आप करेंगे तो फिर उस पॉलिसी का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है, because we have pushed them to a limit where they want कि जी अगर आपका difference में if the rich and the timber mafia can enjoy all these perks and privileges, have unlimited access to forest resources anytime, so what is our just get the fault? They will also get involved. But this kind of, जब ये वाला आपकी सूरत हाल बन जाए, then it's not implementation failure, it's something failure of big gravity. क्योंकि our actions has actually pushed them to a limit कि वो अब illegal means में आ रहे हैं. Our actions have actually made them realized कि जी they do not own the forest. उनकी जो एक affiliation थी वो हमने क्या कर दी? ख़त्म कर दी by just keeping them away. While other class of people who can afford, who are influential, they are having it. So एक पॉलिसी ने, जो आपके पॉलिसी प्रोसेस ने उससे क्या आपके हैव और हैव नॉट्स के दरमियान गैप ज़्यादा कर दिया है. ठीक है. और जो हैव नॉट्स हैं now they are in a state where they are going to use unfair means to get things done. Now the dilemma with most of the natural resource management policies in Pakistan in the recent past has been absence of attention to human dimension aspects and focus on a pro-conservation approach even at the cost of local livelihoods. ये हम बात कई दफ़ा कर चुके हैं कि जी आपने ह्यूमन सेंटर नहीं बनाई पॉलिसीज़ और हमने लाइवलीहुड्स को तो बिल्कुल ही इग्नोर कर दिया. वी वर जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट कि एरिया इंक्रीज कर दें और लोगों को मत अंदर आने दें एंड कंजर्वेशन आपकी इससे ज़्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग होगी. But part of the problem stemmed from non-participatory culture that prevailed in Pakistan. एक साइड पे अगर आप ये भी देखें कि पार्टिसिपेशन भी एज सच नहीं होती. ठीक है. पहले जब हम पार्टिसिपेशन की बात करते थे तो द कम्युनिटीज वुड ओन इट, बट जैसे जैसे टाइम्स हैव चेंज और जैसे जैसे हमारी स्ट्रिंजेंट पॉलिसीज दैट वर टॉप डाउन, इट हैज एक्चुअली eliminated the concept of participation from the public. ठीक है. The trends are changing now today in the world and it's no longer tied up to conservation. अब हम किस पे versus development debate. Rather, a new approach, conservation as well as development, has now emerged. पहले we used to think these two are separate कि जी अगर आपने conserve करना है फिर आप development की बात ना करें, development of the poor, development of the people living near forests. Now what they say that okay, it's not conservation and development in two affairs. Conservation से होते हुए आपने development करनी है, ठीक है ना? Development can't take place in isolation. Conservation can't take place in an isolation because both processes are happening simultaneously. Now your policy has to be in such a manner कि आपके जो दोनों elements हैं वो achieve हो, आपकी development भी हो, and when I'm talking about development I'm talking about the livelihoods of the communities near forests. ठीक है, आपकी livelihood of the communities भी आपके पूरे हो रहे हो और दूसरी साइड पे आपके दरख्त भी कट ना रहे हो, ठीक है? So आपने इस किस्म की कोई policy formulation करनी है, otherwise there is going to be implementation failure, otherwise there is going to be illegal implementation of the defined goals. Now, the proponents of this approach, the approach conservation with development, include many governments. Governments ने इसको endorse किया है, international donors ने इसको endorse किया है, and international lending agencies are revisiting their mission and vision statements. ठीक है? To reposition themselves in a scenario that leads to development without distorting the conservation of natural resources. Even it's not only Pakistan, वहाँ पे भी यही हो रहा था कि earlier they just talked about conservation, not talking about development, but अब उन्होंने भी अपने mission statements, visions ये सारे change किए हैं कि okay, people needs to be there, people, low livelihoods को आपने रखना है. Now for any development effort to be pro-poor, अगर हम कहते हैं जी it is for the poor, good governance is must. वही वाली बात जो मैंने भी शुरू की स्लाइड्स में बताई थी कि ठीक है, अगर आपका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन फेलियर हो गया है तो देयर वाज नो पॉलिटिकल विल, देयर वाज गवर्नमेंट की इनकैपेसिटी थी, बट आपकी गवर्नेंस स्ट्रक्चर्स भी आपका अच्छा होना चाहिए. और इफ़ यू रिमेंबर व्हेन वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट CBNRM, उसके अंदर भी गवर्नेंस का एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट था कि जी आपकी गुड गवर्नेंस होनी चाहिए, गुड गवर्नेंस, नेचुरल रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट, और तीसरा था आपका सोशल. सो देयरफॉर Pakistan, like other developing countries, lack good governance, right? Unfortunately. Although during the formulation of the new policies, the consultation with the group of experts has become a common practice during the recent past. अब हम क्या करते हैं, हम इन experts को, stakeholders को हम बुला लेते हैं. Yet the consultation process remains confined to the folds of professional circles. लेकिन जो लोग वाकई उन फॉरेस्ट के करीब रह रहे हैं या उनका लाइवलीहुड उन फॉरेस्ट के डिपेंड करता है, उनको भी आज हम स्टेक होल्डर्स मीटिंग में नहीं बुलाते. उनकी पार्टिसिपेशन अभी भी मिसिंग है. वी जस्ट कॉल द एक्सपर्ट्स हु आर मे बी US ग्रेजुएट्स, UK ग्रेजुएट्स, जिन्होंने कभी फॉरेस्ट पाकिस्तान का नहीं देखा, and they will make the policies and they would say, well, we had a good participatory workshop, we came up with these results, but no local people are sitting. There is no voice for whom the policy is being implemented. लेकिन चले, something is better than nothing, as we can say कि चले, time is changing, things are improving. Reason being कि पहले तो आप ये भी नहीं बुलाते थे, ठीक है ना? अब अगर इससे start हुआ, maybe one day people will be sitting whose forest it is. उसके बाद let's see that policies become stronger on technical consideration but lacking the flexibility to make them work real life situations, presenting multiple sets of actors and factors. Stakeholders often find themselves in a situation where state policies either do not support or have harmful effects on their livelihood strategies. That is the comment that will always come from the stakeholders, क्योंकि आपने उनको involve किया ही ना decision making के अंदर. So they would say कि जी state policies either तो हमें support नहीं करती या हमारे livelihood को क्या करेंगे, affect करती हैं. Why? क्योंकि state ने उनसे कभी पूछा नहीं कि what actually they want. In this scenario, that policies do not meet the expectations of people who in turn are forced to utilize the natural resources unsustainably to secure their livelihood. और इसका result क्या होता है कि then these people in retaliation or they start using the resources in unsustainable manner. Consequently, neither the development goal nor the conservation objective is achieved. अब क्या होगा जब वो फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाते हैं तो आपकी क्या होंगे, ना आपका कंजर्वेशन का गोल अचीव होगा, ना आपका डेवलपमेंट का गोल अचीव होगा. Now, what are the implications for sustainable forest management and livelihood security? I'll read most of it because it's easy paraphrased और मैंने ज़्यादा इसको लिखा हुआ है so that you people can read it once you get the set of these slides. And these are kind of recommendations what we can say. The forest policy should have foundation of carefully organized policy research studies conducted by academia of both from forestry and social science discipline. These studies will ensure the involvement of grassroots level people and civil society organizations. कि भी जो research हुई है academia में और जो लोगों ने forest के ऊपर काम किया उसको involve करना चाहिए, उसको refer करना चाहिए in the policy making process. Then provision for the identification, training and involvement of volunteer forest managers who would join hands with the government for management of forests may be incorporated in the future policy. और इन दोनों को क्या करना है, आपने incorporate करना है in a sense कि वो जो है volunteer forest managers को, ठीक है, because we need people who can take care of these forests. So इस किस्म का volunteer program आपका start होगा. उसके बाद then there is a need to put people at the center of development. यही बात हम शुरू से कह रहे हैं कि people need to be placed at the center of development. This focus on people is equally, ठीक है, it is equally important at higher levels as at the micro or community level. The forestry policy should ensure, क्या करना चाहिए, poverty alleviation of forest develops through utilization of systematic approach of development. Training in the alternative vocations, ठीक है, यानी एक तो timber products होते हैं ना, तो आप non timber products की तरफ लोगों को लेके जाएं, उनको training दें, providing education, health and infrastructure development. And why people are using unsustainable measures, क्योंकि पहली बात तो हमारे laws और our policies do not favor them. Secondly, वो ये होता है कि we haven't given them education, जहाँ पे आप tangible कुछ कर रहे हैं, like making something, making it into a national park, taking a time out to think about कि जी आपकी पॉलिसी कैसी है. वहीं पे आपने क्या करना है, आप लोगों को अच्छी हेल्थ दें, आप लोगों को अच्छा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर दें, आप लोगों को नॉन टिम्बर फॉरेस्ट प्रोडक्ट्स की तरफ लेके जाएं, तो जो प्रेशर है फॉरेस्ट या टिम्बर प्रोडक्ट्स के ऊपर वो क्या हो जाएगा, कम हो जाएगा. Forestry is a provincial responsibility. We already know, we covered it in the last lecture. In Pakistan, with planning, execution and implementation of forests and range of management programs are vested in provincial forest departments. ये तो हमने देखा है कि it's all provincial in nature. Yet policy is a federal responsibility. लेकिन जो federal पे level पे हमारी responsibility वो क्या है, आपकी forest policy बन रही है, ठीक है. What we see is that there is a lack of coordination between provincial and your federal government, ठीक है. और it's further, जब दोनों के बीच में coordination नहीं है तो आपकी जो forestry sector है वो क्या हो जाता है, fragment उसके हो जाते हैं, वो टुकड़ों टुकड़ों में हो जाता है, because we haven't integrated the provincial and the federal one. Federal वाले policy दे रहे हैं, provincial वाले उसको implement कर रहे हैं, how to make it happen. Then the sector as a whole lacks cohesion and unity of efforts. It is therefore suggested that the measures should be taken to improve coordination between federal and provincial governments, right? Frequent change of forest policy. हमने शुरू में भी ये एनालिसिस में किया था कि जैसे जैसे गवर्नमेंट्स बदल रही थी वैसे वैसे ही आपके फॉरेस्ट पॉलिसी भी आती जा रही थी. तो they said that it was more of the government objectives rather than objective of sustainability or making the forest policy in the true sense. अब frequent change of forest policies क्या indicate करता है? They indicate lack of political will. First slide, हमारी political will, क्योंकि change होती रहती है. The policies are framed by government officials or some selected government-friendly NGOs without taking care of local population. Local population तो है ही नहीं. Such policies are changed with the change with the change of governments. जैसे government बदल जाती है, आपकी policy भी बदल जाती है. If the policy is not sustainable in itself, then how it ensure sustainable forest management? And it is not advisable to change horses in the midstream. We can't do that. Next, the forest policy should be flexible. It should be flexible enough to adopt it according to local situation. यानी ऐसी हमारी forest policy होनी चाहिए जो कि क्या करें, local लोग उसको accept करें. It is made for the people. ठीक है? It is therefore suggested that management of state forests should be decentralized. वही वाली जो हम CBRM में पढ़ रहे थे. Decentralized at district level so that forest management can be done according to the prevailing local population. The way Punjab will behave towards forest and the way northern areas, the way this Sindh, हर एक का बिहेवियर फ़र्क होगा. तो आपकी फॉरेस्ट पॉलिसी के अंदर इतनी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी होनी चाहिए कि वो क्या करे, लोकल सिचुएशन को अपने अंदर ग्रास्प कर ले, यानी लोकल सिचुएशन के अंदर वो कवर हो जाए. लाइवलीहुड वुड बी सिक्योर्ड. अब लाइवलीहुड कब सिक्योर होता है? इफ पॉलिसीज वर्क विद पीपल, यानी जो आपने पॉलिसी बनाई है वो लोगों के साथ इस तरीके से काम करे कि जो उनका करंट लाइवलीहुड है उसको ना बंद कर दे ना उसको कम करे. ठीक है? रादर इट सिंक्रोनाइजेस विद इट. तब आप कहेंगे कि जी माय पॉलिसी इज सक्सेसफुल. अगर आप नेक्स्ट अगर आप देखें, सो पीपल रादर देन द रिसोर्सेज दे यूज और गवर्नमेंट्स दैट सर्व देम आर प्रायोरिटी कंसर्न. Adhering to this principle would not only ensure provision of sustainable livelihood but also enhance involvements of all sections of society in sustainable natural resource management. Ab generation of income and employment is as important as the government is generating the revenue alone. And forestry should be instrument of sustainable forest management policy rather than its object. Otherwise the poor will remain mired in the poverty. यानी गरीब तो फिर गरीब ही रहेगा. The policy is just benefiting the classes, not the masses, pushing us to the spiral of over exploitation in the wake of forest policy failures. ठीक है? तो it was not a success, it has been a failure. और ये उसी वक्त होगा अगर आपकी जो लाइवलीहुड स्ट्रैटेजीज है वो सिंक किसके साथ करें, आपकी फॉरेस्ट पॉलिसी के साथ सिंक करें. नाउ कमिंग ऑन टू कंक्लूजन. सो फार before I conclude within the 4 slides, let us analyze ourselves that how forest policies have been. So कुछ उसके अंदर major points हैं. अगर कभी आपसे कोई पूछे कि जी what are the main salient features throughout these policies, so one of the things that we come across is कि number 1 कि ये है बड़ी centralized रही हैं. The government has been in the main thrust. और जैसे जैसे आपकी policies आती जा रही हैं till 1990s, तो the role of the forest manager has been becoming much more stronger, right? Second, that we have been ignoring the community participation. And when we're ignoring the community participation, what we are trying to say is that people were not the center. Conservation and development were going, can't say diverging path, but दोनों isolation के अंदर थे, दोनों relate नहीं थे. Until we started saying that let's talk about conservation with development. उसके बाद आपका आ जाता है कि 1990s के अंदर आता है, चेंज आता है, 70s के भी अंदर आया, दैट ओके, 80s के भी अंदर आया कि पीपल को हमने, लोगों को थोड़ा सा हमने we started giving them importance, but ultimately that was just in the written form. In the spirit we haven't done that. बल्कि forest departments are becoming much more stronger. एक और अगर आप बात देखें, so we haven't given any empowerment to the community. कोई public private partnerships नहीं हुई, ठीक है. उसके बाद आपके जो मैनग्रूव फॉरेस्ट से, उनको तो हमने फॉरेस्ट कभी पहले तस्वर किया नहीं था. लेटर ऑन वी स्टार्टेड इंक्लूडिंग देम एज द फॉरेस्ट्स. लास्टली दैट आई वुड से कि जी हम कस्टमरी लॉज की बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वैल्यू रही है, एंड एट टाइम्स दे सीम टू बी मोर इफेक्टिव विद रेफरेंस टू व्हाट द गवर्नमेंट हैज बीन. क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट का जो रोल रहा है दैट वाज जस्ट इंक्रीजिंग द फॉरेस्ट एरिया, इंक्रीजिंग देयर प्रोडक्टिविटी. बट जो हम रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट की बात करते हैं, व्हेन वी डिफाइन कि जी नेचुरल रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट करनी है, तो उसके अंदर लाइवलीहुड वाज टोटली एब्सेंट. वी weren't थिंकिंग कि जी लोगों का हु आर डिपेंडेंट अपॉन these resources, how they are going to survive. So that was some of the things that we need to reflect upon when we are talking about the forest policies of Pakistan. And I hope कि अब जो नई हमारी जो forest policy आती है, that is somewhat better as compared to 2001. लेकिन चलो, one thing to be agreed कि now they are talking about these concepts of stakeholders, they are talking about this concept of sustainability, आपकी forest farming, green man, पता नहीं अब किस किस को training दे रहा है. So let's see, let's have prospects that things are going to turn better in future with reference to these forest initiatives. और जैसे जैसे नई policies आती हैं, they are flexible enough to tailor themselves according to the local needs. As students of public administration, one of the things is कि policy, as I said, I think ये तीसरी दफ़ा मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि policy बनाना कोई कारनामा नहीं है, but policy की implementation is the bigger challenge. कि जी आपने जो policy बनाई है, क्या वाकई जिन objectives के तहत आपने बनाई थी, either it is really fulfilling those objectives or not. Number 2, कि policies जब आप बनाते हैं, the way it is formulated, it should be in such a manner that it needs to have flexibility. Remember कि policy is being made at the federal level, it is being implemented at the provincial level, and it is being affected at the local level. So in तीनों levels का I feel कि there has been a disconnect. अब इनको सिंक्रोनाइज करने के लिए कि फेडरल पे अगर आप बनाते हैं पॉलिसी, सो इट शुड बी इन लाइन विद द प्रोविंशियल, और जो प्रोविंशियल वाले जब इम्प्लीमेंटेशन उसकी करवाते हैं, सो इट शुड हैव द फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी कि जो जो आपके लोकल लेवल पे आपकी जो नीड्स हैं, रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं, जो लाइवलीहुड ऑप्शंस हैं, उनके साथ वो सिंक्रोनाइज करे. ये ना हो कि जी इट गोज अगेंस्ट इट और इट स्टार्टेड रिड्यूसिंग देयर लाइवलीहुड्स, अदरवाइज पीपल आर नॉट गोइंग टू बी हैप्पी. तो वो जो हम कहते हैं जी एक सोशल आउटकम ऑफ द पॉलिसी इज द वेलफेयर ऑफ द पीपल, वो आपकी नहीं हो रही. नाउ कमिंग ऑन टू कंक्लूजन, Pakistan's experience demonstrates the futility of creating new policies in the absence of corresponding implementation ability. Brilliant. Policies हम बनाते जा रहे थे without looking at कि जी either implementation कैसी हो रही है. ठीक है ना, आपकी इतनी ज़्यादा पॉलिसीज आ रही हैं, एक आप अच्छी पॉलिसी बनाए which can sustain for like 5-6 years, but every year we have, with every government we are making the policies, but we are not looking at its implementation. Under the perverse governance context, अब governance को अगर हम लेते हैं, where the traditional command and control setup has developed genuine stakes for people to perpetuate the system. यानी हमारे सिस्टम ने लोगों को इन्वॉल्व किया ना, that they go into the unsustainable practices of nature, and institutional overhaul seems virtually impossible. यानी आप ये नहीं एकदम, you can't say कि नई पॉलिसी आ जाएगी and things will get repaired. No, unless a political suicidal decision to address the root causes of the problem is made. So we don't think एक evolutionary kind of thing से आपका ये issue solve हो जाएगा. We need some drastic measure. We need some revolutionary step. Even that is highly unlikely. Unfortunately हम सिर्फ बात कर सकते हैं, but it is highly unlikely to withstand the pressure from well-entrenched opposition. क्योंकि obviously जब आप करेंगे, so there will going to be an opposition. People are going to stop you. ठीक है, so it's not an easy task. Excessive public sector involvement, lack of clearly defined property rights, and community heterogeneity all seems to be major concerns that provide clues for other current and future efforts. Remember these three things. Aapka, here we go. Where is the red sign? I can't find. Okay, here it is. Number 1, excessive public sector involvement. Number 2, lack of clearly defined property rights. Unfortunately हमारे यहाँ पे property rights का भी अलमिया ये है that we do not have the clear वो जिसे कहते हैं property rights. तो people get confused कि जी आपने कौन सा काम करना है. Then and community heterogeneity, और हमने ये भी बात establish की थी in the previous lectures कि communities जिनको हम समझते हैं they are homogeneous, they are actually heterogeneous. Goals उनके फ़र्क होते हैं, उनका culture फ़र्क होता है, उनकी social standing उनकी different होती है, so communities are heterogeneous. So these are the major concerns when we are talking about the efforts. कि जब आपने future policy बनानी है तो इनको आपने you have to keep them in mind. However, measures designed to incorporate these aspects in a reform program cannot be divorced from larger governance context. ये तो छोटे level पे आ रहे हैं, लेकिन आप larger governance context से इसको वो alienate नहीं कर सकते. Governance आपका structure totally overall rehaul होने वाला है. Since the latter tends to be content specific, any lessons need to be adopted carefully. For instance, the kind of actors that need to be co-opted or eliminated from a reform framework may vary greatly. यानी ये जो आपकी governance है, that is also a bigger project. ठीक है, so उसके लिए आपको काफ़ी काम करने की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी. Now in Pakistan, the issue is कि जो हमारी influential community है, they are from ethnic tribes, and that may be the challenge for change. Whether in countries this may not be, दूसरे countries में, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पे ethnicity की बहुत strong है, लेकिन दूसरे countries में शायद ऐसा such a problem ना हो. लेकिन I doubt, because every country has influentials, every country has this ethnicity. Like USA के अंदर देख लें कि जी Americans जब आए तो Red Indians were there, उनकी अपनी ethnicity, and there are certain zones even today where they are not allowed. Americans are not allowed to come to those areas because they belong to the Red Indians, because earlier Red Indians owned everything. Now, even the condition for decreased public presence, ये बड़ा मजेदार point है. So far we have been saying that everything is concentrated, यानी जो nucleus है policies का वो तो government बनी हुई है. And over the past so many years, since the inception of Pakistan till 1990s तक हम क्या कर रहे हैं, उस nucleus को strong कर रहे हैं, and everything is revolving around that. लेकिन जब हम बात करते हैं कि जी let's decrease the public sector influence, that has to be interpreted in a very caution manner. And as we as policy makers, जब हम policy बना रहे हैं, आपको ये बात बहुत गौर से वो जिसे कहते हैं analyze करनी है. Reason being, Pakistan is a country where we have the feudal system. ठीक है, our लोग feudal backgrounds हैं. The public sector is often constrained in terms of redefining property rights and thus rendered ineffective in sectors involving land ownership issues. तो वहां पे गवर्नमेंट की क्या आ जाती है, लिमिटेशन आ जाती है। ठीक है, सेकंड बात जो मैंने आपको बतानी थी, पब्लिक सेक्टर की इन्वॉल्वमेंट कम कर दे। व्हाट इज और व्हाट मेक यू शो your community is not going to behave in the same manner the way your forest manager was behaving? कम्युनिटी भी तो खराब कर सकती है। पहले चलो एक बंदा कर रहा है, एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कर रही है, एक इंस्टीट्यूशन कर रहा है। नाउ पीपल कैन वर्क एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन हु आर इन दिस मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द रिसोर्स एंड दे कैन इजीली डिस्ट्रॉय इट। रीजन इज के भी क्या assurance है that even community is going to take care of the forest? Examples हैं, लेकिन वहाँ पे ये भी है कि भी state institutions ने भी किया हुआ। What is the assurance that people are not going to exploit the forest? What is the assurance कि लोगों के अपने अंदर, because remember we said that people themselves are not homogeneous. अगर वो heterogeneous हैं तो वहाँ पे भी तो power game चलेगी ना। The person who is the feudal lord, his voice is going to be stronger, his actions are going to be much more influential as compared to others. So therefore we have to keep that balance कि government को totally आप ignore नहीं कर सकते, और government की जो participation है, it has to be a market friendly approach. ठीक है? But over here as we are talking about कि there are points कि वहाँ पे हमारे जो एक और issue जहाँ पे government को face करना पड़ेगा, that there will be issue of property rights, and it is with most of the developing countries कि हमारे यहाँ पे property rights as such define नहीं है। अगर आप स्विट्जरलैंड में जाएं, you will be amazed that people own, उनके property rights इतने well defined है कि लोगों के पास अपने अपने Alps हैं, यानी मेरा ये mountain है, ये मेरी ये वाला पूरा जो दरख्तों का फॉरेस्ट है। देयर हैव वेरी वेल एस्टैब्लिश्ड प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स। पाकिस्तान के अंदर प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स अभी तक वेल एस्टैब्लिश्ड नहीं है। देयर इज अ रिसर्चर कॉल्ड लुबना हसन एंड शी इज एट पाइड इस्लामाबाद के अंदर है, पाकिस्तान इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ डेवलपमेंट इकोनॉमिक्स। शी हैज डन सम वेरी गुड वर्क ऑन दिस प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स एंड फॉरेस्ट मैनेजमेंट। Second, there is another author which I was reading, and she used to, we did one course together, and her name is Namisha Shukla, and she is at, she's in Gujarat, India. और नमीशा शुक्ला की भी अगर आप publications देखें तो she has done some really good work in forest management. So अगर आप इन दोनों के, if you are really interested in terms of reading more about forest, so do ponder around, do browse their work, and you will find some really good insights about it. Now, in some, Pakistan as well as some countries are exhibiting the same governance context, and there may not be any viable option to left to overall forest management from within the sector. Under the existing setup, the ultimate answer to the problems of the forest sector lie in targeting the governance context. आप governance को ठीक कर लें, आपको automatically वही जो हमने CBNR में framework पढ़ा था, per se itself a cross-sectoral issue that requires a major structural shift in the country's overall institutional functioning. And ladies and gentlemen, we conclude over here that policies matter. And the same policies can indulge people into good practices, and the same policies can indulge people into malpractices. Policies matter. But your institutions and your governance matters much more. क्योंकि policies are the software. ये आपके institutions और जो governance mechanism ये आपका hardware है. Software itself can't do anything until आपका जो hardware है उसके अंदर ये capacity हो that it can actually make that software run. An important component that we still miss is how you are making that software. Policy मैंने बना दी, but जिसके लिए बनाई, is he involved or he or she involved in the policy process? Have we even discussed it with them? First of the context, like in my understanding, I have been to number of conferences where we are talking about so many important issues, और बड़े बड़े वो papers लिखे जा रहे होते हैं and research की जा रही होती है, and that is all desk research. They haven't been there. They don't know what are the sufferings of people. They don't know कि जब एक पॉलिसी आती है तो लोगों के livelihoods किस तरीके से affect होते हैं. They don't know the face of poverty. There was a very interesting, अभी आगे जब हम water पे मेरा एक lecture है, water पे जब हम बात करेंगे, so I am sitting in an air conditioned room. I am having some wonderful time. Everything is funded. There's a bottled water in front of me, or I am talking about water crisis in some other province. Policies ऐसे नहीं बनती. You have to feel the pain. वो कहते हैं ना, a person who wears the shoe, he knows where it pinches. So you can't say कि जी just by studying some articles or papers I can say कि जी ये policy अच्छी है. I can formulate a policy. No, feel the pain. Get emotional, and then you will realize that, okay, this is how the policy is formulated, and this is for the poor, by the poor. Right? So it's a tedious process, but I'm sure, I'm very hopeful, I'm optimistic that your नई upcoming policy hai, it may bring some change, because we need change. Thank you very much, and see you in the next lecture.